Hi there, I'm Roux, and welcome to Crime Lime. In this episode, I want to talk about the Madeleine McCann child disappearance case. The case started to unfold on May 3rd, 2007. A family, the McCanns, consisting of mom and dad, Kate and Gary, little Madeleine, who was about 3 years old, and her two twin younger siblings, Emily and Sean, were on vacation in Praia da Luz in Portugal. It was a normal family vacation where they had vacationed with family friends who also brought their children, and everything was normal until the night of May the 3rd. This case has been really scandalous because it all started in a very negligent way. The parents and their friends, approximately 8 people, many couples, had left their small children, toddlers, in their hotel rooms and then left to a nearby restaurant to eat dinner. And apparently they did this every night, which is incredibly negligent. You should never leave your small children home alone like that. What makes it worse is that they left the hotel door unlocked, where their small toddler children were sleeping. So already, bad starting point. Apparently, this group of couple friends, parents, had this system where they would check on their kids every so often. So someone would leave the table and go check on the kids and then come back and eat more. Someone else would leave, check, come back, as a sort of security system. Obviously, that security system failed. Late in the evening, Kate McCann went to check on her children, only to find that her daughter Madeleine was gone. Her twin toddlers were still in the room, but little Madeleine, 3 years old, was nowhere to be found. It's very strange because her reaction to not finding her daughter is to run from the room where her sleeping toddler, even younger children are still sleeping, run to the restaurant to get people, and then run back. If I were to have found that one of my children were missing and I think that there's foul play, I would not be leaving more of them alone. Another very strange behavior. They call the police show up, the local police, in the town of Praia da Luz, and in a series of horribly unfortunate events, the police do a very negligent job. They did not tape off the crime scene. They didn't even take it very seriously that there was a child missing, and it wasn't until several hours later that the professional police, higher ups of the police, FBI-ish version in Portugal, showed up that anything was really done when it comes to collecting evidence, taking witness statements, any of that sort of thing. So already you've lost several hours. And in any case where a child is missing, every single minute counts. You're way more likely to find the child if you find them early. That's why it's so important to immediately go full on and try to find them. Because the more time that passes, if they've been kidnapped, the kidnapper could get away, get further away, harder to find them, or the kidnapper could have killed the child. So time is of the essence, and they lost a lot of valuable time. So finally, once the police actually are convinced there's some foul play going on here, and they start doing their job, they get the ball rolling. but not really very well, because if it hadn't have been for the parents reaching out to the media, not a lot of stuff seemed to have been, would have been done. First of all, they were supposed to have checkpoints of vehicles leaving the area to check out if anyone had this missing child in the car. Except there's footage of police officers just letting cars drive out of town, and they're sort of like just loitering next to the road, not checking any cars. So let's just say the police was not really very interested in doing a good job. That was clear from the very beginning, and which is why the parents so forcefully contacted the media. And that's why this is such a huge case, is because the parents contacted the media, they spoke to the media, and they really did their utmost to get all the attention on the case as they could to make sure that their daughter was found and to make sure that everyone was looking for their daughter. They went on tour, basically. They went to several countries where they spoke to the media, spoke to anyone who would listen about finding their daughter, which backfired. Not only was the police not very interested in finding out who did it, they also were very offended that the couple had gone to the media and that the couple had involved British police. The police chief notoriously had a reputation for not caring about finding the guilty party, so much so as he cared about bragging about closing rates of his cases. There was a different case where a child went missing and he basically beat the mother to a pulp until she confessed that she had murdered her daughter. Her and her brother, aka the uncle of the child, had murdered the little girl who was 8 years old and then chopped her up and put her in a fridge. And those people were put in prison for many, many years. In hindsight, first of all, none of it makes any sense. You couldn't fit a body into that tiny fridge that they said that they put the body in. Second of all, there was no really evidence of anything that they confessed to. So that's the kind of police chief we're dealing with. And not surprisingly, when the media got wind of this and there was a lot of pressure on the police to solve the case, all of a sudden the police is like, you know what? We think the parents did it. You know what we think? We think that they killed their daughter, pretended she went missing, and then, surprise, surprise, stuffed her in a fridge. Exactly like the other story that was also proven to be fake, to also have proven to be something that was forced by the police, like a narrative of, oh, you've murdered the child and put him in a freezer. That's what he accused Kate and Gary McCann of doing, that they had accidentally killed their daughter earlier in the vacation and that they were covering it up by pretending she was missing. And the reason why the police couldn't find any dead bodies was because, of course, they had a secret fridge somewhere that they had stuffed their daughter's body in, and then later they took the body out and buried it. It makes no sense. There was media on these people at all times. But it did plant the seed of doubt. And a lot of people were convinced that the McCanns did it, that they had killed their daughter and that they were just pretending so that they could get away with it. That's why they were going on the media and on the news all the time, was because they were putting on an act. It didn't help that they were very British, very extremely British, and very standoffish. No emotions, very direct, just trying to find their daughter, but that came across as uncaring and callous. And since the police chief was now convinced that the parents did it, they stopped all other lines of investigation. Not that they were really trying in the first place, but now that they had decided that this is what happened, they stopped investigating and looking for Madeleine at any other venue, at any other possible scenario. So the McCanns had to get other people to look for her. They got help from private people, rich private people who funded the search for their daughter. They basically had to do all of it themselves. They even had to flee Portugal because it was very clear that the police was going to arrest them for killing their daughter, even though there was no evidence of that. The only evidence they had was a cadaver dog and a blood dog who indicated that there was like evidence that you can't see but that the dogs can smell in the apartment. But you can't prove that. But they were going to arrest them, so the couple had to flee Portugal with their twin toddlers. Before that, they had stayed for months in Portugal trying to find their daughter. I'm going to be honest, I was one of the people who thought that they did it. I'm so ashamed now because I genuinely think that they didn't do it. I watched the documentary on Netflix and they really explain what was happening and why the public would think that they did it and what was evidence. It wasn't really evidence, it was just sort of propaganda made by the police who wanted to look good and who was tired of having the pressure on them for like not solving this case. Years passed. No Madeleine. Literally 10 years passed. This happened in 2007, so in 2017 was the 10-year anniversary of her going missing. And now it's 2020, so it's 13 years. But they have not stopped looking for their daughter. It's literally what they live and breathe. And recently, there has been some interesting cracks in the case. First of all, you know how I said that the police didn't seem interested at all in looking into any other suspects or any other lines of investigation? That becomes horrifyingly true when you realize what was actually going on in Praia da Luz while the McCanns were there. Before they arrived, there was a number of break-ins in vacation homes and hotel rooms of young children where a child predator was assaulting minor children. It's horrifying. Even more so because no one sounded the alert. There were people in charge, people who were supposed to warn people about this who didn't tell anyone. The police didn't tell anyone. The embassy didn't tell anyone. The embassy of tourists, of people who come there, like the British embassy and stuff like that. They didn't warn anyone that there was a literal child predator lurking around, and there was over 20 instances of reported cases of this child predator breaking into the apartments or hotel rooms and assaulting children. And they were never caught. Because, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like they gave a damn about any of that. As long as their tourist town could get some more money, they were sort of like, shh, let's not tell anyone about that. Money is so much better. We don't care about their safety. Let's just not tell anyone. Another thing that was going on was there was apparently a group of scammers, men, who walked around going building to building, knocking on people's doors, including locals and tourists alike, and telling them that they were from a charity that were collecting money for a nearby orphanage. There was a particular incident where a woman opened the door and this man is talking about this orphanage, but she's getting a really creepy feeling from the guy. And she notices that even though he's talking to her, he's not looking her in the eye at all. Instead, she looks over her shoulder and realizes that he has his eyes fixated on her 3-year-old daughter. So she's just like, not interested, closes the door. But then, like a few days later, she's doing laundry upstairs, comes downstairs, down the stairwell, and the man is standing in their fucking living room next to her 3-year-old daughter. And by sheer chance, she walks in on him and he gets scared and he runs away. So now you have 2 very possible suspects. This group of men with the fake charity thing, there were many of them though. So that really makes you question whether or not there was a professional syndicate looking for children. Because apparently that is a huge problem in a lot of countries where people will sort of weasel their way in and look for young children that they can kidnap and then sell to the highest bidder to very disturbing people on the internet. Human trafficking is what I'm talking about, what they're doing. The reason they know for sure that it was a scam is because there is no nearby orphanage to Praia da Luz. So there is no possible way that they were collecting money for an orphanage. Yes, hella creepy. So you have two very disturbing possible suspects. You know, this group of men and this creepy child molester breaking into places and assaulting children. So now you have two very viable suspects, line of inquiry, that the police did nothing about, even though they knew about it. And it's only come out later where people are like, okay, we demand to look at the files. And they're like, wait, what the fuck? Like, there's like records of like this stuff going on. And the police is like, yeah, coincidence. A coinky dink. It's like, what? Yeah, we didn't really feel like anyone needed to know. It had nothing to do with the case. It's like, you don't know that though. You don't know that. You have no idea. Apparently, the area where Praia da Luz is in Portugal has a problem of children going missing, of children being sex trafficked or kidnapped. There's like two types of people that might want to kidnap a child. You have the pedophiles, and then you have people who desperately want a child, who are emotionally disturbed, but who want to be parents, but who can't have their own children. So either of those are viable options of who might have wanted a blonde, beautiful little girl. 3 days before Madeleine McCann went missing, apparently on the dark web in a pedophile site, someone was looking for a girl that fits her description. That's the kind of girl that they wanted. And then 3 days later, she goes missing. So that is a very alarming, coinciding set of events. There was also another man who was suspected, not only the McCanns themselves, there was another man called Robert Murat, who also was heavily questioned by the police, and who basically, people really thought he did it, except he was also cleared, and they're back to square one. In the documentary that I watched on Netflix, it really angered me to watch the police lie. They're being interviewed, and they're like, oh, we were like so gentle with people when we interviewed them. Like, police brutality? Us? Never. Except there's proof of it. And they also lie about how long they would question people. Like, oh, we only questioned them for like 2 hours, except there's a literal evidence of the media standing outside when the person goes in and then standing outside when the person comes out 11 hours later. So yeah, they like to lie. It's like, that's how you catch them in a lie. It's like, oh, you're literally lying about this small thing. I don't believe anything you say now. I do agree, however, that the McCanns were severely negligent. You should never, ever leave a child who is 3 years old, younger, alone like that. Let alone in a foreign country with the door unlocked. That is horribly negligent. Recently, though, there has been a crack in the case. In Germany, a man named Christian Bruckner is suspected of kidnapping and possibly killing Madeleine McCann. Why? Because it has come out that he has been abusing younger children, he has raped people, and he has been exposing himself to younger children. And they realized, oh, this guy was in Praia da Luz when Madeleine McCann went missing, and he has a proclivity for little girls. He apparently abused his ex-girlfriend's 5-year-old daughter in the past, and that's what got him arrested now. And they found very horrible child abusive pictures on his laptop, child pornography. When Madeleine McCann went missing, he was in Praia da Luz. And they went to the place where he lived in Praia da Luz, and they found a secret basement. This all was prompted by, apparently, not only because he suddenly became a suspect of abusing this 5-year-old girl, back in the day. Someone said that they had seen a girl with him in Germany or with a German family speaking German in 2017. And that girl apparently told someone that she was Madeleine McCann, so she could have been alive in 2017. Although they do suspect that he might have killed her after he kidnapped her. They think he kidnapped her and then killed her, but they don't know. And he is the prime suspect. And he is suspected of having done this to several people. You know, several types of sexual, predatory, pedophilic crimes. I don't know what's gonna happen though. Like, it would really blow the case wide open. I also think that the police in Portugal, the police chief, he was actually fired and someone else got his job. He's just like spent this whole time defaming the McCann couple. If it actually comes out that someone kidnapped Madeleine, he should already be in jail because he's a horrible person. Like beating people up and forcing them to confess to things they didn't do and just corrupt and self-obsessed. He even made a documentary and a book profiting off of the case. It's disgusting. And all of the book is just about how he's just a fantastic investigator and how the McCanns definitely did it. Just shame on him. It's going to be interesting to see if it comes out that it was. Before I post this video, I'm going to add it to the video at this point. So this is me after the fact. Apparently, even though they are very convinced that this Christian Bruckner guy might have something to do with Maddie's disappearance, they don't have the evidence to issue an arrest warrant. And the German police are not going to jeopardize the case they do have against him in Germany to let the police in the Madeleine McCann case come and interview him. So I guess they're trying to just convict him on that, and then maybe later they can interview him, like the police in the Madeleine McCann case. I don't know. It must be so heartbreaking for the McCanns, though, to not know and to sort of feel like they've been strung along by being told that this guy definitely did it, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we can't investigate it further right now. It's, you know, they're constantly in limbo, and that must be really hard. I guess that's the end of the video. It's a very unsatisfying case because you don't have the answers. You don't know. I hope one day that we will know what happened to her. Sometimes I think that maybe it's better if she died immediately than if she's been held captive by some pedophile this whole time. It's one thing if she was held captive by someone who actually treated her well and who wanted a child, even though that's completely messed up. That would be better. Like, then it would be like, oh yeah, that would be nice, like, if she's alive. But to think of what a sadistic pedophile might have been doing to that poor child this whole time, it would be more humane if she died immediately. You know what I mean? And that's incredibly sad. But it's unfortunately the reality of a lot of these cases. There is so many people in the world doing things like this and getting away with it. If it hadn't have been a blonde, blue-eyed little girl, it wouldn't have gotten as much attention, which is also sad. There's so many children who disappear all the time and they don't get nearly enough attention, and people don't know what happened to them. They suffer horrible fates, and it's so sad. You should never, ever leave your children alone. I'm still really upset that the parents did. I had a friend at the time because we were like 15 at the time, and my friend had a younger sibling, and I was talking about how horrible these parenting strategy was, that they had left their children like this. And she was like, no, but like parents need time off. And I'm like, excuse me, when you choose to be a parent, you've signed away time off. You can't just endanger your children and take the risk of going to dinner out and leave your children alone with an unlocked door in a foreign country. You wouldn't do that if you were home in your own country. Why on earth would you do it when you're on vacation? That just blows my mind. And it's really sad because they probably hate themselves for that. You know, like that must haunt them, that they know that it was because they were negligent that this had a chance of happening. I don't think they did it, But I think that was incredibly negligent, and I hope that people stop doing that after this case, because apparently all of the couples on vacation with each other were doing that, leaving their children alone in the apartments and then going and checking on them like now and then, but leaving them alone. I hope that people stopped doing that after this case, that people learn. There was a lot of controversy around the fact that while they were checking in the apartment and looking for this missing girl, police and a bunch of other people in and out of the apartment, just loads of noise, and the twins were sleeping like rocks. And a lot of people started questioning whether or not they were drugged. The father is a surgeon, the mother is an anesthesiologist, and they immediately suspected her of having drugged her children so that they could go out and have a fun evening out, so like she drugged her children so they would sleep. But it's also more likely that if someone came in and kidnapped a little girl, that they might have drugged her and the children to keep them quiet, so that no one would scream. That's also a very viable possibility. I hope you found that case interesting and that you want to hear more Crime Lime. If you do, remember to subscribe, leave a like, and do comment below what other cases do you want me to cover in this new series. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, Katbra, Madeleine McCann, Ono Balloons, Ellie, and Splackjack. You make this possible. If anyone's interested in supporting this new series, there's a link below. Don't forget to join me next Wednesday when we delve into the case of Sigrid, a Norwegian case, the case that sparked the most extensive missing persons search in Norwegian history.